Is it finally time to re-download Fallout 76? In this video, what I want to do is, well, answer that question for you. I want to be pretty objective about some of the changes that have come to this game or that should have come to this game, and look at what exactly has evolved or changed in Fallout 76 in roughly the now 4 months in between today and the release of this game. This has been a rising question because just tomorrow we get the first DLC drop for this game, and I know for that reason a lot of people are curious if they should jump back in. And I would say that has a very easy yes or no answer dependent on why you quit this game. So one of the first big things I do want to address is, in these 4 months, Fallout 76 hasn't gotten any new content. That is naturally coming tomorrow, and we'll discuss what exactly is coming, because even though we are getting new quest lines and a ton of interesting new content, some of that stuff actually is quite a ways away. In reality, most of the changes made to Fallout 76 over these past 4 months have been bug fixes or balance changes or even the occasional quality of life feature. And going into this video, I really want to make one thing particularly clear. This isn't meant to be a video as to whether or not Fallout 76 improved enough or if Bethesda did a good enough job. It's not a critique of the company or the game, it's attempting to be a fairly objective look at what's different and to help you make a fairly informed decision as to whether or not it's time for you to actually play this game again. So if the general concept of Fallout 76 somewhat appealed to you, if you liked maybe some of the previous Fallout games and you were on the fence about trying this one out, but maybe shied away due to some of the bugs or negative press, then I actually think you're one of the best candidates for playing the game again or giving it a try. It seemed like one of the main criticisms of Fallout 76 on release was just the sheer amount of bugs in this game. And based on the past 4 months, Bethesda has certainly heard that, as the vast majority of patches and updates have brought hundreds of bug fixes. The game's now in a state where it's definitely not bug-free, but the bugs that you encounter aren't nearly as malicious or frustrating as they were a few months ago. You will still encounter the occasional funny bug, like just watching a ghoul walk out into nothingness, and other ones that are significantly more frustrating, like taking down an enemy just to see a corpse with an infinite load screen, or even just the corpse disappear before you can loot it. But large in part, you could play Fallout 76 without too many frustrating or particularly annoying bugs. One of the biggest areas of improvement has been in server stability. There's a lot of crashing throughout different periods of this game. In particular, early 2019 was a bad stretch of time. But nowadays, you can play for many hours on end and you don't have to worry too much about getting this screen. So in essence, the bugginess of Fallout 76 is a lot better. It's still not perfect, but if you quit solely because of the bugs, it probably is a good time to give it another try. You may find that the story does get kind of mundane or repetitive after a while, or some of the events just stop being fun, but based on how deeply discounted this game has been recently, you could probably get your money's worth, especially if one of your friends buys it with you. But let's say you don't have friends. This has been one area of Fallout 76 that I feel like just doesn't get enough credit. The vast majority of the time, the people you encounter in this game are incredibly nice.
Anyway, feel free. This is where I tend to hang out anyway, or where my base usually. Welcome to it.
Even though many online games are plagued or really suffer from griefing or toxicity, in Fallout 76, I have literally never encountered that, not once. And I don't think I'm an outlier here. I think most people that play this game just are kind of chill and lax and fairly nice. If you're looking for other people to do quests with or just mess around with, you'll easily be able to find someone. Although one thing that you won't find, at least right now in Fallout 76, is PvP opportunities. The PvP system still isn't too good, there hasn't been many changes to it, and I think as a byproduct of months of pretty much nobody using the PvP system, a lot of times now when you actually want to PvP someone, they'll view it more as griefing or you just trying to make their day worse. Sometimes even through some of the natural means, such as taking a workshop from somebody else, which is kind of part of the point of workshops. Fortunately, in just a few weeks, we are getting the full-fledged PvP servers. On these, it'll be your more traditional survival mode. You could just shoot people for full damage, and on death, you drop more items than just the junk on your character. So if PvPing is one of the parts of the game you are interested in, now might be a good time to actually look into creating a new character built just around that. Apparently, new characters are making their way onto the PvP servers. A lot of people didn't like that idea, but Bethesda hasn't officially changed that stance. But then that kind of moves us on to the next category. That with people that kind of just quit at some point in between. Maybe you gave the game a chance at first, you got a little bit through the story, and you're like, alright, I'm over it. Some of the changes Bethesda has been making to Fallout 76 outside of the bug fixes are nice. There have certainly been several quality of life changes since release, and even just recently we got the stash size increase, which is huge. But even outside of that, being able to go to any vendor and just see all of the plans available for sale, no longer having to server hop for hours on end to find that one rare plan is really, really nice. But it really feels like in other ways Bethesda has almost elongated the length of Fallout 76. We got questionable nerfs to things like workshops, the experience you get from killing certain enemies is now way lower, and then of course the most recent two-shot explosive nerf making the weapon a shadow of its former self. For some of these, I've just kind of left questioning, really, Bethesda, what was the deal with that one? So for balance changes, overall, it's more of a mixed bag. There are definitely some really nice improvements, things that will make it so I can just play Fallout 76 how I want to more quickly, and certain other ones that just make it so it takes longer to get the same thing you could previously. And even though some of these are quite definitive, especially like the two-shot explosive nerf, it feels like large in part, the game's still fairly similar. Melee weapons, which have been good since release, are still really good. We know in the next patch that we're getting some buffs to explosive and heavy weapons, but it doesn't seem like it's going to really change anything. If you had an older character using one specific build that you found overpowered then, it's still probably going to be overpowered. There still are certain perk cards that you kind of just have to take, you can't get around it. You can now fortunately respec your character, but you only get one respec point per level up, which makes it so if you really wanted to fundamentally change things, it would take a fairly long time. So for those people out there that actually did get a decent way through Fallout 76's story, or even beat the game, some of the existing changes aren't really going to appeal to you. But what about alternatively? What about looking ahead to this actual new DLC? Is it time for you to re-download this game and actually just jump into that new content? And I would say yes, but probably not yet, or not this month. If you fell into the PvP category I talked about earlier, then that's definitely something to look forward to. That's going to be a really cool new mode that will change up many aspects of this game and have a lot of replayability. But as far as the other two things coming over the next 2 weeks, there is a new crafting system that allows you to create and brew your own unique alcohols, giving you cool bonuses. That's definitely interesting, but at the same time, it doesn't add in a ton to do with those alcohols. There's going to be a few short initial quests to actually learn the recipes, but large in part, the alcohols are going to be used in tandem with the traditional gameplay. In the following week, we do have this new parade event. This too doesn't sound all that unique. You're going to be able to win unique masks that definitely look really cool, but it seems like the parade itself, based on the details we know, is going to be fairly tedious and repeatable. You'll collect party supplies and then subsequently defend the parade that is put on, which definitely could be fun and interesting, especially with some of these rare masks, but I don't feel like either of those first 2 weeks of DLC really are going to draw people in. If you're looking for those new branching storylines and quests for you to uncover, that is coming, it's just not really here yet. The first fully fledged questline is coming, but it's not until April 9th. There you're going to be able to find out more about some of the various cryptids of West Virginia. So maybe you want to jump in now to start preparing for some of that, participate in some of these events along the way. At the same time, if you re-downloaded the game on April 4th, gave yourself a few days before the DLC drop, it's not like you would have missed all that much. And I think to an extent, this actually highlights one of the other issues with Fallout 76, and that is the lack of replayability. Many of the quests don't involve choice, and thus it's not super interesting to redo them. It's not like you get branching storylines or totally different options. A full playthrough of the game a second time could be fun, especially if you barely remember some of the initial stuff because you played it during beta, but large in part, unless you change up the order or explore some new side quests, what you do during your second playthrough will pretty much mirror exactly what you did during your first playthrough, because there isn't a ton of variability. There's not a ton of things you could actually change up. Fallout 76 certainly has a endgame problem as well as a replayability problem. I think if you've never played the game before or never ended up giving it a fair chance the first time, this is a good time to actually give it that try. There's a lot of really enjoyable components of this, and I think you can get your money's worth as far as how many hours of fun you do have. But at the same time, if you were somebody that already tried this game, already didn't like it, or didn't like some of the existing stories, I still think you have roughly a month to wait before we get some of that new interesting content. We don't know too many details on those yet. Perhaps Bethesda will solve the replayability content with that. It'll make those quests feel more like some of the older game quests. But also I'm sure they'll add in other things like new weapons, new armors, things that we could actually use to experience the rest of Fallout 76 in a little bit of a different way. So in essence, as a concluding point on this video, I would say that as of right now, there are certain people that it definitely is a great time to re-download the game, but there's certain other people that you still have a bit of a wait. A month or 2 months down the road, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool new experience to have, but for the next couple of weeks, there isn't going to be a ton for everyone. Now, obviously, this largely excludes existing players. If you've already been playing and enjoying this game, some of this up-and-coming DLC will probably give you some pretty cool and interesting things to do with your friends. I know I am certainly excited to try out the new crafting. as well as the new repeatable parade. But the simple reality is, I don't really expect a ton of people to come back to this game just for those two things. I think the survival mode will be a big draw for those interested, but even that's fairly polarizing, since every previous Fallout was a PvE game. I'm sure once we actually get those new quests or even the new game mode over this summer, it'll bring a lot of people to try Fallout 76 out again. Although either way, as far as this channel goes, Fallout 76 was never deleted. I will have videos coming on everything that goes way more in depth on this new DLC, so you guys can actually make a choice or decision as it's getting released. You could take a look at what they add in and be like, hey, should I download that or not? Although either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this one. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. But with that, I do hope to see you guys all next time. Later.